Hello and welcome to the Morning Hoops Basketball Podcast. I'm Anthony Denu, radio veteran and former pig racer. You can find me on Twitter at Anthony Denu. I'm joined by Kyle McKeown, basketball analyst and former nude art model, who you can find on Twitter at RotoKyleNBA. If you're watching us on YouTube, please smash that like button. If you're checking us out on your favorite podcast app, please rate and review the podcast. And for anyone that rates and reviews the podcast, Kyle and I will come to your house next spring and help you plant a bed of sweet potatoes in your garden. Isn't that right, Kyle?
Sweet potatoes are great, man. I like to bake them up in little chips, and then I'll make a big old bowl of guac out of like 2 or 3 avocados, and I'll just get in there with all my sweet potato chips and just yum, delicious. And it's all healthy fat. It's great for you. Make sure you put a little bit of garlic seasoning and onion in that guac. But yeah, it's a good time.
Hell yeah, brother. All right, let's talk about what we got coming up on the show. We're going to talk about things that happened this weekend, some big games and injuries, some returns, and of course some news. And starting off today with some trade rumors, Kyle.
Heck yeah, man. Let's get into them. We had that. Adrian Wojnarowski and Zach Lowe had an ESPN special where essentially we were getting the inside scoop from those guys in regards to legit trade rumors right now. You can look around the internet and find a lot of speculation about what might be going on, as we did ourselves in our previous show. So check that out from last Thursday. It's still got some viability for listening, but to get stuff from the horse's mouth on the unofficial opening of the trade season for the NBA, with December 15th being that day when a lot of the free agents from the summer who signed with new teams are now eligible to be traded. So that's what's the impetus to Woj and Lowe having the show, and to us talking about the things that they brought up.
Yeah, and someone that is it's no one new to trade talks is Kevin Love. He's been the girl at the dance that everyone's looking to dance with so far for this trade season. And what do we found out about him and what maybe his price tag is?
Well, apparently Love's ready to go, which is something that I think a lot of us already thought or believed at least. And Wojnarowski said that the market for Kevin Love is going to be something like a protected first round pick, maybe an expiring contract, and then perhaps a throw-in player. So as we were already speculating before, due to Love's contract, the fact that he's got a couple more years on it right now, it's going to be hard for the Cavs to get much in value back for future value, but they might be able to at least get salary relief in those extra years that Love currently has on his contract. And Woj said that there's likely to be some trade movement in the next few weeks. It's not often we see a lot of early trade movement, but I think teams might look to the way things unfurled last year with the trade deadline being before the All-Star break. And they might say, look, if we're going to make a trade and make changes to our team, we need to identify those changes early and get some new players in here long before the All-Star game comes into purview. And then we have to worry about the viability of trading someone based on the PR perspective of it with our fans.
Did you find it interesting at all that this price tag did not mention anything about a current prospect, someone who's in the first or second year of the NBA, a young player around the age of 19 to 22, 23, that wasn't really involved in that at all?
Well, I mean, if you look at like guys who are throw-in players, you're talking about how Mo Wagner was a throw-in player going to the Lakers. So or going to the Wizards. So and then he rose up, nobody was really super hot on Mo Wagner before the season started. And he ended up playing super well off the bench for the Wizards this year. There's certain people who were fans of Mo Wagner and believed in his ability to maybe be a rotation player, but some of the stuff we saw from Mo early was actualized potential. So I think someone who has maybe some ambiguity on whether or not they're going to fulfill their potential, that's who the throw-in player would be. So maybe you do look across the different rosters and you identify another guy similar to that, and maybe that's a Malik Beasley or something to that effect. From if the trade was to come up with the Denver Nuggets, because they have the expiring contract of Paul Millsap that fits in nicely with Kevin Love's per year numbers, then you could maybe throw in like I just suggested, a Beasley or somebody else who might have more upside in a bigger role on another team.
Portland is somewhere that he's been linked to a number of times, including just last week, and saying that's a place that he'd be interested in going. So the price tag looks like that's pretty feasible. I mean, Kent Bazemore potentially.
Yep, absolutely. Kent Bazemore. And then I mean, I would be really surprised if the Blazers would throw in Anthony Simons to get Kevin Love.
Yeah.
But who knows? Who knows how desperate they are? I highly doubt it. No, I'm not even. Let's take that back. I didn't say that. That's not something that's possible. Let's hope not. That would be a terrible move.
And once again, it didn't say anything about a young prospect. So
suffice to say, if your team is talking about getting Kevin Love in a trade, they are not going to have to pay full market value for his talent. They're going to get a reduced price in regards to the trade assets that have to be returned for Kevin Love because of his bloated contract. So, and how that has to fit into, very few teams who can actually have that space available.
Bloated. All right. Should we move on to the Thunder and CP3 talk?
Yeah, apparently there's no belief within the Thunder organization that Chris Paul will be traded this season, according to Woj. And I just think is that PR to say from the Thunder to say, look, we're not really worried about moving CP3. So if you want him, you got to make us want to move him. Whereas in reality, given CP3's huge contract, you would think that, and the fact that he's 34 already, you would think that the Thunder would want to capitalize on the fact that CP3 has played well to start the season and that it might help facilitate a trade for them to get away from his long-term value.
Yeah, he's someone that I can't really pinpoint a potential location for him, but his situation is similar to, I would say, the Golden State Warriors, how they're kind of coming out and doing the same thing, sort of PR, like, well, we're not looking to move him, but it doesn't mean they're not listening.
Right. You're talking about D'Angelo Russell. Yeah. The Warriors are not making calls regarding D'Angelo Russell is the reported verbiage. So, which is just hilarious. If the phrasing of everything is shows you what the narrative is or the purpose is from the report of how Woj got it, so the Warriors will not be making calls regarding D'Angelo Russell. Hey, we're not putting him out there. We're not making him available. We like this guy. We want him on our team long-term. In other words, if you want him, you're going to have to pay for him. We're not just salary dumping this guy. You're going to have to give us something back that's going to help us going forward. So it's funny to kind of look through the baloney to read between the lines on these situations.
What is anything other?
Well,
you want to get to on
either of those? Just go through. No, not really. The Minnesota Timberwolves are reportedly looking for an upgrade at point guard, which is not a surprise. They were looking for one in the offseason. They were looking for D'Angelo Russell. But then that just didn't work out because the whole D'Angelo Russell situation was tied to Kevin Durant and if the Timberwolves were going to acquire Russell, they would have needed to consummate a trade. So, you need two sides to do that. And it just didn't work out with the Timberwolves. So it's just a situation where you think that there's still a chance that Russell could end up finding his way to the Timberwolves, but the Timberwolves would have to, it sounds like, up the ante on what they've been reportedly been offering the Warriors, if in fact the two teams have been talking, which I would suspect they have.
So the Rockets have been linked to Andre Iguodala, but that seems now very unlikely, according to the tweet.
According to the tweet, well, according to Woj, there's tons of teams. Every single team that's a contender is going to want Andre Iguodala, right?
Right.
I mean, you've got to. One of the things that we identified when we were going through the teams last year in our trade primer about who might be traded this season is the fact that the one thing you really need in today's NBA to match up with the other championship level teams are great combo forwards who have the ability to guard people in the post, on the perimeter, to match up with those super versatile players, whether it's a guy like Anthony Davis or Giannis Antetokounmpo, who are two very different kind of versatile players. So Andre Iguodala is one of those guys who can cause problems for those guys, for a LeBron James. Maybe not at the same level that he has in the past, but he's a body you can throw at them, and a legit one who, even if his athleticism continues to trail off and his health continues to trail off as he gets older, he's still a heady enough of a defensive player to make an impact there.
So the big story of this year has been Luka Doncic, and of course he goes down with an injury in a year where we're already missing so many stars due to injury. And sadly,
is he getting traded?
No, he's not getting traded.
Oh, okay. Are we moving on to injuries?
Yeah, that was my plan here.
Well, I was getting worried there.
Okay. Yeah, he's getting traded to the Bucks for Eric Bledsoe. Because they're both injured. Because they're both injured for a couple weeks, so it
makes sense.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, you got to think that Eric Bledsoe is obviously going to be better than Luka the rest of the way.
Yeah, fair assessment.
All right. Sorry, man. I was just giving you crap because I wanted a more clear transition to our injuries session. What's it called? Segment.
Segue to the segment. All right, so we're talking about injuries from this weekend, of which there are a few of note. As we said, Luka Doncic, really the big one. Pretty bad ankle turn and sprain, and I guess he was in the pool working like in the second half after he had been deemed out. So they are hoping it's not as bad as it looked, but he still is going to be out for a few weeks.
Yeah, Luka, if you watch the video, he really he twisted his ankle bad. And a lot of times I'll look at ankle injuries and people will be making a big commotion of it on Twitter, and I'll be like, it's, one game, maybe two. But this one looked pretty bad for Luka, and he was even grabbing at his upper ankle. So there was some concern initially from people that it may have been a high ankle sprain. Fortunately, x-rays came back negative. He underwent an MRI. Everything appears to be good. He doesn't have a high ankle sprain. It's a moderate one. He's going to be out a couple weeks, but realistically, we should see him back in action probably in 2 to 3 weeks, maybe a little bit longer if the team can kind of stay afloat and continue to compete without him.
Can you tell us why you might be personally bummed about this?
Oh man, I've got a couple of buddies and we all bought tickets and ponied up like $100 to get good tickets so that we could go watch Luka play versus Giannis in Milwaukee on Monday night. And now, one game before Luka's going to play Giannis, he goes and gets his ankle injured. And I'm not like throwing shade or anything or pissed. I'm frustrated as someone who wanted to see Luka and who, asked for the time off from work and same for my buddies that we did this to go to watch Luka, not to go watch, Jalen Brunson. And I'm still excited for certain aspects of the game, but if Luka's sitting out and Giannis has any kind of flare up for any kind of issue, they might just the Bucks might decide to sit Giannis in this game too. So that frustrates me a little bit as well. So I don't know. But ultimately, yeah, sorry. Thanks for letting me vent there, Anthony.
No, absolutely. And this is continuing a trend this year of the Bucks missing their opponent's top star. So it's happened a number of times this year. It's pretty remarkable. Moving on in the injuries column is we're going to PJ Washington, who fractured his pinky finger, and he should be out for a couple weeks.
Well, are you excited at all about anything we might see while Luka's out? Are there any guys who might step up that you're looking forward to seeing? Do a little bit more.
I have Tim Hardaway Jr. in fantasy, so I mean, there's that. But I would rather have the entertainment and of seeing Luka play as much as possible. But this also, if you want to see it from the Mavs perspective, this could also shine a little bit more light on Porzingis and let him be the man for a couple weeks, which could ultimately make the duo better when Luka is back. And maybe this is what Porzingis needs, is a little bit more of the focus more time with the ball and really be the guy that they're going to have to rely on if they're going to get through these next few weeks.
Well, and this just makes it easier too for Coach Carlisle to, look at Kristaps Porzingis in a larger light, as you said, because he doesn't. It's really hard to say, oh, we're gonna ask Luka to give up shots. Like, no,
right? During this unbelievable stretch.
Like, sorry, Kristaps. And thing is, Kristaps acknowledged that early in the season. He said, look, man, it'd be one thing if we weren't winning, but like, I'm playing with Luka and we all see how good he is. I'm not going to complain about, my shots and things like that. I'm fine to play my role as long as we continue to win, and we're gonna.
Foreign players tend not to have the kind of ego about those kind of things. I don't, as far as that's how I feel, at least.
I mean, you might be right. I haven't looked at the data on it. I'm sure it's out there somewhere. There's got to be like a psychological evaluation impact study in regards to NBA players' egos. At least there should be. Maybe somebody needs to get on that.
There you go, team doctors. So, is there any other way to think about this for the Mavs' perspective? Who's ultimately going to get put in the starting lineup, or who gets the most minute bump?
It might change from game to game. You're definitely going to see a little bit more minutes from several players, but ultimately, Jalen Brunson started the second half on Saturday, so that might be the first guy to get a look as the starting point guard. But we also know that Coach Carlisle loves JJ Barea, so now that his main point guard and Luka's out, it's going to be like, oh yeah, man, I get to play JJ Barea a ton of minutes. And we might see JJ just drop a bunch of dimes, so that could be fun because as we've seen in the past, Barea can just load up on those assists in very short minutes. But beyond Jalen Brunson, maybe DeLon Wright if his hamstring issue is healthier. But DeLon only played like 8 or 9 minutes in Saturday's game, even with Luka going down. So that was a little bit of a weird situation. And then maybe even Seth Curry and the fact that Luka is a guy who essentially plays not point guard on defense, other positions, we might even see other guys have more secure minutes if Carlisle just decides to continue to roll out that very flat and timeshare kind of a rigmarole with all of his guards. So it'll be interesting to see how things play out.
Yeah, we'll see what the rotation ends up being tomorrow night in Milwaukee, and you'll get a firsthand look at it. So
this is the perfect trap game for Milwaukee on their 18-game win streak, though, too. A Luka-less team coming in.
I think a Luka full team would be a much more imposing,
much more of a threat. Yeah, absolutely. But this is Kristaps playing against Giannis, and that's who he hurt his knee against.
That's true.
So it might just be pimp and destruction coming from Kristaps, and that's what I'm hoping for.
Should we get to the PJ Washington fractured pinky?
Yeah, PJ Washington has a fractured pinky. He's going to be out a couple weeks at least. So we probably won't see him until after Christmas, it sounds like. With PJ Washington out on Sunday, the what are they called? They're Hornets. We're playing the Indiana Pacers, and due to the Pacers playing that bigger front court of Miles Turner and Domantas Sabonis, the Hornets went with Cody Zeller at power forward and Bismack Biyombo together at center. So that was interesting to see. Ultimately, though, if Marvin Williams is healthy and comes back, we'll probably see Marvin Williams filling in for a lot of those PJ Washington absences. And we might even see other guys like Cody Martin get a lot of run. Nicholas Batum was out on Sunday too. So the Hornets are dealing with a lot of little injuries right now in their forward rotation. So we might just see some more innovative lineups with Cody Zeller and Bismack Biyombo more than what I would presume.
Wow, innovative and Biyombo and Zeller all in the same sentence. What in the world has come of the NBA and the Charlotte Hornets?
I was wondering why that word came to my mind.
That's
and
great.
Not like something more negative.
Oh, goodness. Let's talk about Eric Bledsoe. And he hurt his shin on Friday night. This is interesting because he said that he was fine after the game. And I think it was Matt Velasquez asked him, well, Chris said the same thing after he got hurt. And Bledsoe respond, "Yeah, but Chris a little baby though."
Yeah, that was a pretty fun response to see tweeted out. And then the next day when Eric Bledsoe comes up with oh, hey, by the way, he's out for 2 weeks at least.
And speaking of being a baby, the way Giannis picked up Bledsoe on just like a straight deadlift of dead weight. I mean,
Bledsoe's over 200 pounds. He's he's a thick,
he's 6'1", but he's a bulldog.
Yeah, he's a girthy little muscle toad. But Bledsoe has a shin avulsion fracture, and he's gonna be out for at least 2 weeks. In his first absence on Saturday, we saw Dante DiVincenzo, Big Ray Goo, the Curly Sue. He got the start, so it's gonna be fun to see Dante play point guard.
He started in place of Middleton, and they shift Wesley Matthews up to small forward while Middleton was out. So he had a few weeks starting experience. The Bucks were undefeated when Dante was in the starting lineup. They're still undefeated and on that incredible streak. Now we'll get to see Dante, instead of starting at shooting guard, moving over to point guard. I think this is great. The whole idea when he was drafted is that he's the combo guard off the bench, 6-man role. And so we're really getting to see him play 6-man, starting shooting guard, now starting point guard. It's really sort of what was planned for him, that he was going to get to move around and do all these different things.
It's going to be bittersweet when he gets traded for Davis Bertans.
Yikes.
It'll be great, dude. It'll be fine.
It'll be a lot of fun.
You won't care. Because it'll be like, yeah, but it led to a championship. But seeing Dante DiVincenzo on the Wizards, which would be a really great fit for him, considering the ambiguity of John Wall's health going forward and his big contract. But
so yeah, the plan is to start Dante, and then George Hill will just kind of keep his role off the bench, and I imagine the Bucks will keep rolling.
Holla holla. All right, next injury to look at Kevin Huerter, and
that is
look,
Kyle chooses.
I figured it out. I figured it out. The reason why I say Huerter is because the Spanish announcers on 2K that.
Oh my goodness! All
so
right.
That's why I started saying it like that, and that's where if I have like a quote unquote funny way to pronounce something or a different way to pronounce something, I guarantee it's based off something dumb or something unique that's not completely devoid of reality.
Right.
But dude, I get it. Like in our position at hosting this show, you would hope that we would be keyed in enough to know exactly how every single player's name is pronounced correctly. But there are certain situations where there's, I don't know. It's okay not to be right on 99, on 100% of everything either.
No, I'm with you. And what I try and do is go by the home announcer's pronunciation of a player's name, but there's some players that don't get in all that much and whatever.
When Luka first came into the league, I remember one of the, not Nate Duncan, but the other brother on that podcast, Danny LaRue, he was trying to sell people on the idea that Luka's last name was pronounced Luka Doncic, and he was just trying to get people in on that, or at least he was mentioning it on their podcast as a way of saying it might be this. So that was, sometimes I'll drop a Doncic when I'm talking about Luka, just because it's fun to kind of do a throwback to the incorrect pronunciations that we find ourselves stumbling through at times.
Well, back to Kevin Huerter. So he hurt his shoulder again. This is the same one he was out with recently in the season.
Huerter hurt his shoulder again. Yes. So we don't know how serious this is. Huerter said it's not expected, or he doesn't expect it to be as big of an issue as his previous injury that he just recently came back from and was still working off of getting off of his minutes restriction on. So it's a frustrating situation. He was trying to do something with Dwight Howard in the post. It was weird. Dwight ended up throwing his arm back and it hit Huerter's shoulder. So it was a weird little situation. I don't know how to read into it, as it's not as obvious as the last time Huerter injured his shoulder. Like you saw the tape and you're like, oh my gosh, he's hurt. But that wasn't the situation. The situation here was like really weird. And also maybe don't go up against Dwight in that kind of a situation. It was kind of ridiculous. But with Huerter out, we're probably going to see just a little bit more of Cam Reddish. Maybe a guy like DeAndre Bembry gets back into the rotation here. And maybe even Evan Turner gets back into the rotation as the backup point guard.
Yep, I agree with you. Cam Reddish, interesting. They big play at the end of the game. Hawks were up for actually most of the game. Lakers, of course, came back late in the second half. But the Hawks drew up a really nice play for Cam Reddish to tie the game at the end of the fourth quarter. And it looked like they drew it up so that way Vince Carter was going to go in for two and just lay it up with ease. And he went up and even brought it up. And then at the last second, threw it to the corner once LeBron had already really just started to ignore Reddish and bit on the fake that Vince Carter was going up for the two. And Reddish missed it, but it was a really nice play.
And that's got to give the rookie confidence in regard to the fact that his coach is showing him trust and that his teammates are showing him trust.
And Trae Young went up to him right afterwards to like encourage him, like it's all good. And like, they said we got a great look, and they were pretty content. I mean,
did it actually hit rim?
I think it might have. It wasn't horrible, but it didn't go in.
All right. Yeah, no, I mean, look, Reddish had a lot of shooting struggles in college. I think we anticipated that coming in. We continue to hear how the Hawks are working to improve that for him. And I think we have to have a fair bit of optimism, but also skepticism as to whether or not it'll come to fruition. But there's enough other things about Reddish's size, athleticism, and his ability to potentially be another ball handler and creator off the dribble that it's not just about his shooting for him to become a successful player in the NBA. So as much as people want to throw shade and I don't know, make overreactions to too early of a player's, career in the NBA, like there's still a lot to be seen with him.
Some other injury news: Paul Millsap and the Nuggets has been out for 2 games, and Jeremy Grant taking the place at power forward.
Yeah, what do you think here? Do you think that there's a chance with the fact that Millsap's on the last year of his deal that maybe Jeremy Grant just permanently steals that starting power forward job at some point, especially if Millsap needs to continue missing games?
Yeah, I wonder also if Millsap is a good trade target for teams if you're trying to get that expiring deal, so that way this offseason you have some more money or you're rebuilding, that might not be a bad thing to do either, especially if you have Jeremy Grant playing the way he is, and you have hopefully Michael Porter Jr. entering it and at small forward too to help the front court even more.
Yeah, MPJ had a pretty good game on Sunday. 9 points, 8 rebounds in just about 10 minutes. So
Jesus.
But they continue to kind of jerk around Michael Porter Jr.'s minutes. We're not seeing consistent big ones from him yet. Right. That's fine. Like, it is what it is. I mean, I've complained enough on here about my perspective of that. But it's at least good to see him a little bit more consistently getting into the rotation, even if it is still just little nibbles at the cheese. He's Malone's not fallen completely into the MPJ mousetrap yet.
Should we talk about some returns from injury coming up this week?
Let's do it, brother.
All right, so let's start off with the Kings. We had Bagley's back this week, and De'Aaron Fox is going to return on Tuesday, and actually was listed as doubtful for the first time today, but of course didn't get into the game.
Yep, on Sunday. Bagley continues to come off the bench right now. It's frustrating to see from Coach Luke Walmart, but I guess do you think it's reasonable to bring Bagley off the bench like this behind Richaun Holmes? Because right now what we're seeing is Richaun Holmes is getting limited by the fact that Bagley is coming off the bench because they want to give Bagley enough minutes. They're not. Coach Luke Walmart said that he's going to continue. The reason why he's limiting Bagley in his return is to try to ease his return, and because he doesn't want him playing at 2 positions right now. Okay, then don't play him at 2 positions. Just play him at starting power forward like he's supposed to be on this team. It's one of those situations similar to the Michael Porter Jr. thing where I think a coach is overthinking things in the now to try to win tonight instead of like just looking at his team from a more whole perspective and saying like, Marvin Bagley's our starting power forward. We need him to play with the guy that we installed as the starting center after he left due to injury earlier this year. So now we should try to get those guys minutes together if that's going to be how we're going to play going forward. But yet, because Nemanja Bjelica has stepped up and played well during the injury absence, you're just going to continue to ride with this guy who's, I believe, 31 years old. And like, it just doesn't make sense why you build these barriers to better production going forward and the reality of your situation. I mean, go back to Luke Walmart when he was coaching the Lakers and the fact that going his first season with the Lakers, everybody's looking at his team and saying, oh, he's going to start Brook Lopez and Julius Randle at center and power forward. That didn't happen until like the last 5 games of the season. It was the most obvious starting lineup, and it didn't happen for the last 5 games of the season. So there is a little bit of fear for me in regards to what's going to happen here with Marvin Bagley going forward. But in reality, I don't believe the Sacramento Kings front office would allow Coach Luke Walmart to continue to make these terrible decisions by bringing Bagley off the bench. And what may be happening here, or what may be just unsaid, is that Luke Walmart may have made this decision to line up Bagley's return to the starting lineup with De'Aaron Fox's return to the starting lineup as well.
All right. That's interesting. We'll look forward to that on potential on Tuesday.
If Bagley doesn't start on Tuesday, though, it's just fire the guy.
Wow.
Just get him out of there.
Another return from injury. Nikola Vucevic returned to the Orlando Magic.
Yep, Vucevic was back in action on Sunday after missing the previous, I believe, 11 games with 11 games with a sprained ankle. He said there was some kind of like bone bruise issue, but if that healed already, that's pretty good quick return there for Vucevic. He was right back to playing good minutes. The Magic won handily, so they didn't need to lean on him too hard. But with Vucevic back, it's gonna affect a lot of guys' production all around the roster, because Vucevic is a guy who demands a lot of shots due to his proficiency on offense. So we're gonna see some of the guys who had been stepping up lately, whether it was Evan Fournier or Terrence Ross, maybe take another step back. Same for maybe Aaron Gordon. But even with Vucevic back, we saw John Isaac have a really nice game, 20-10 game. So that was cool to see. And hopefully John Isaac can continue to show off more of his scoring ability. He's had 4 20-point games this season. So I'm hoping that I think ultimately John Isaac and another guy that we're going to talk about tonight in Jaren Jackson Jr., these guys are going to end up being like Giannis-esque players when they're done developing and becoming who they're going to be as the number one options on their teams eventually someday.
Landry Shamet returned to the Los Angeles Clippers on Saturday.
Yes, he did. He slotted right back into the starting lineup at shooting guard, but that was also with several players out due to injury for the Clippers. Shamet was originally expected to be out through their current road trip and then look at a return, but he was able to come back a little bit early after having a really good workout on Friday. So it's just nice to have Shamet back. He's a great 3-point shooter, and ultimately though he'll probably slot into a sometime starting job when the Clippers want to go with both George and Kawhi Leonard at their 2 forward slots. But most games we're probably going to continue to see Mo Harkless start at power forward, which is going to push Shamet to the bench when the Clippers are at full health. But we also know that with Kawhi Leonard resting so many games, that Shamet should get quite a few looks in the starting lineup for the rest of the season too.
A couple of suspension returns, non-injury notes here. Wilson Chandler returned on Sunday for the Brooklyn Nets.
Yes, he did. Got 18 minutes off the bench. That was a blowout win for the Nets, so maybe there was a little bit extra run there for Wilson Chandler after missing the first 25 games due to suspension this season. But Chandler's a vet. He's someone that the team, with them winning, could be someone that they trust even more than a guy like Torian Prince, who's played well this season as a starting power forward. So that's a situation to watch, just how the forward rotation unfolds with Wilson Chandler back in action and available to be used there. If we see a guy like Garrett Temple or Torian Prince struggling, or, there's a lot of options there where we could see Wilson Chandler claim a bigger role than what a lot of people would suspect.
Another suspension return, DeAndre Ayton, coming up is should be available Tuesday, right, for the Phoenix Suns?
Yep. DeAndre Ayton has 1 game left on his 25-game suspension. We originally heard when he was suspended that there was going to be an appeal, and then we never heard anything about the appeal, which is just frustrating because it's like, where's the reporting? But it's also, I don't know. I guess it peeves me off because it makes it feel like it's one of those situations where the league would never actually approve an appeal in this regard, because it would just open the door to like essentially every single player ever getting suspended for that similar reason to be able to contest it, which is also, it frustrates me because I feel like it's an adherence to a rule for adherence to a rule's sake, for the rule's sake, instead of for whether or not it's a meaningful application of trying to make the game more fair. Whatever. It's going to be great to have DeAndre Ayton back. It's going to be great to have less Frank Kaminsky out there.
Whatever, jerk.
Yeah, but Aaron Baines is going to slot into more of a just, that backup role at center. DeAndre Ayton is their starting center. No, I mean, I was going to say none of this Bagley crap, or I was going to throw up a little bit of a prayer about not having any stupid stuff coming back. But I think the fact that we've seen Aaron Baines already be put back into a backup role behind Frank Kaminsky, I think that foretells the situation that Ayton is going to immediately step into the starting lineup over Frank Kaminsky.
I think that's going to happen as well. I mean, he's the first overall pick last year. Everyone else seems to be getting, at least, Mavs and Hawks are getting top return from their picks. So the Suns are looking to do the same off of Ayton.
Well, just even if you're bringing Ayton back and you're saying, hey, we're going to ease him into action, maybe limit his minutes to 25 the first couple games or whatever to get his blowback for games. Like this, eventually Ayton would start at center. So the idea of like easing him in off the bench, like it's just a stupid situation where you're saying like, okay, cool, we're going to integrate him into the bench, then we're going to reintegrate him into the starting lineup with a bunch of different guys. So no, dude, just get him integrated into the one spot and then, lessen your road bumps instead of like, paving a wavy road. Why would you pave a wavy road, bro?
These Paul McCartney lyrics?
Yes, they are. Thank you.
We want to talk about some top performances from the weekend.
Yeah, I think the one that stands out to me was Jaren Jackson Jr. going for a career high 43 points and a career high 9 3-pointers for the Memphis Grizzlies. So that was just a lot of fun to see him step up and have a huge game. Ja Morant and Brandon Clark were both resting for that game. But it's nice to know that Jackson looked across the rest of the team and said, oh, there's dudes out. I need to do more. And he did more.
He shoots like middle schoolers at the YMCA. It's unbelievable. He has the craziest release and uneven hop. It's almost as if he's joking. It's like, I don't believe that is a real shooting form in the NBA.
It's beautiful though, isn't it? It goes in.
It was beautiful.
At like a good, at a good percentage.
Yeah, absolutely. No, he's been unreal, especially the last few weeks. So, you want to talk about a little bit more about the development of like positionless basketball and how you think Giannis has sort of led the charge, but some of these players sort of in that mold would be Jonathan Isaac in Orlando or Jaren Jackson Jr. in Memphis. And do you see other people or other players in the mold, or does it really have to be at least 6'9"?
No, I mean, I think that's, it's not to say that we haven't ever had gigantic ball handlers in the past. We saw, Magic Johnson,
6'9".
yeah, and even, Otis or the Big O. Why can't I think of his
Oscar
name?
Robertson.
Yeah, he was
6'5", but 6'5" at his time was
and a great rebounder as a guard. So he played bigger.
Right. 30, 10, and 10 guy in his second year.
Yeah, Grant Hill as a primary ball handler, 6'8". LeBron, a lot of these guys.
Sure.
We've definitely had quote unquote point guards who are bigger, but having a guy like Nikola Jokic in the league, we're just seeing that the whole idea of positionless basketball, it wasn't just about, it's about every player at every position being able to put the ball on the floor, shoot the three, do a little bit of everything. So it's definitely something that we're seeing evolve in a few different ways, whether it's guys like Draymond becoming the primary facilitator on their team.
Look at what Bam has done this year.
Yeah. Oh man. Yep. Two triple doubles for Bam in the last few games. That's been really fun to watch. And that's another thing we saw over the weekend. So, Bam's on his way to being an all-star, and that's a lot of fun. It's something we mentioned early in the season as a possibility. Positionless basketball is becoming a lot of fun. And it'll be interesting to see how the smaller guys do continue to be of use in this league going forward when you have you got a lot of guys at the point of attack who are 6'6" or larger, Luka Doncic, Ben Simmons, and that's allowing teams to put bigger guys at other positions too, or not necessarily have a guy on their team who's under 6'3". And really what I think we're seeing is that you have to be tremendous off the dribble shooter if you're an undersized player, and there's really no other way to get around it if you're not contributing in a big way on offense like that, like a Trae Young or even a Devontae Graham, the way we've seen this season. It's just hard for you to thrive in today's NBA.
Very excited about the way, where NBA basketball is going. And I think we're going to get even better, bigger athletes and just have chaos, and it's going to be awesome.
Well, I mean, there are certain situations too where there are other players out there in the league who aren't being allowed to show off their full skill set right now, like a Wendell Carter Jr. with the Chicago Bulls. He can do all this Al Horford type stuff and all this Bam Adebayo stuff, but he doesn't have a good coach. So he doesn't have someone opening the door for him, and it's super frustrating.
Well, Kyle, that brings us to one of the next things I want to talk about is a bit of news that Garpax and the Chicago Bulls front office kind of doubled down and backed Boylen. I've picked him since the beginning of this show, since the first episode, about how I think he would be fired by February. And looks like Garpax is doubling down and backing their guy.
This might be a situation where Garpax have had, and that's Gar Forman and not Bill Paxton, John Paxson. John Paxson was not in Twister.
We will not go quietly into the night. Sorry.
Wait a minute. That was I don't think that. Wait, Paxson or Paxton? Which one am I getting?
I don't know.
Okay, because you just quoted Independence Day.
Is that not the right guy?
With the other one.
Oh, okay.
The Twister one and the Independence guy are two different guys.
Right.
Yeah. But I mean, it sounded like you were having Bill Paxton talk crap to a Twister, which we will not go quietly into the night, Twister, which would have been way epic if he was just standing out in the field talking trash to a tornado.
Like the two best movies from 95 and 96. There you go.
That's how it should have ended. Bill Paxton standing out in the field, holding up one of those little ball things, the little Pepsi balls that were going to measure the twisters and help protect people from future storms. Like, what a weird movie.
This Bulls team is dealing with a storm right now, and that storm is Jim Boylen at coach.
So essentially what I wanted to get to there is I think that Jim Paxson and Gar Forman might be on their last legs in the front office with Jim Boylen. And this might be them going out and saying like, hey, Jim, we're all in this together, brother. And if it doesn't work out this season, then we're all getting our walking papers. So at least I want to give Bulls fans that hope.
That hopefully it's a complete clean sweep of the house.
Yeah,
top
that's
to
what
bottom
you need,
organization. Right? It is. Yep.
That's. I mean, they had their successes
yeah.
in the past, and that's not to say that they have necessarily brought in a terrible roster. I think there's some good pieces on it, but some of the decisions they made this offseason were just you're giving your coach. It's the same situation with the Knicks. You're giving your coach problems you shouldn't, in regards to the lopsidedness of the roster or the lack of congruity between the youth and the vets that you have. Like, obviously Thad Young was a really bad accounting error in regards to how he would fit on a team like this.
Well, we got a lot to look forward to coming up this week. And let's talk about Monday's games. And we also know we have the possibility of a trade happening with a lot more players this week. And some players are on the block already and looking to get out. So, but let's start with Monday night's games.
Yeah, Isaiah Thomas might be back from his left calf strain that's kept him out of the last few games. So if Isaiah Thomas is back, maybe Ish Smith returns to a bench role. That'll be something to watch. Troy Brown has also been playing well off the bench for the Wizards while Thomas has been out, and it'll be interesting to see if Brown's recent bigger minutes have just been because CJ Miles and Jordan McRae have been down with injury, and CJ Miles is out for the season, or if it was Isaiah Thomas's absence that really opened the door to those bigger minutes for Troy Brown. I'm interested to see that. For the Pistons in this Washington at Detroit game, Andre Drummond's questionable with his continued eye avocado issue, and Blake Griffin is questionable after he left the previous game with knee soreness in the same knee that he had offseason surgery on. So a lot of up in question for the Pistons in this game, which should make it a fun contest to watch, if nothing else. Moving on, brother. Cleveland at Toronto. Fred VanVleet is doubtful with his knee contusion that's kept him out for a few games. Norman Powell's been playing really well as VanVleet's been out, and we've also seen just kind of Marc Gasol had a wonderful game last time out. This is a Cleveland at Toronto game that I think will be a hefty blowout. Maybe Cleveland can surprise us. They've been playing a little bit better of late, but the Vegas line on this is Toronto by 12.5. So
I'm going to go with, 12.5. That is a lot. I'm not sure, man.
It's at Toronto though.
All right. You know what? I'm going to say that I'm going to take the Cavs.
Not to win the game, but to beat the line.
No. Yeah. I'm going to say that the Cavs will lose by 12 or less.
All right.
I would not bet on the Cavs winning, but I'm
going to stick with the Raptors on this one. I think it'll be at least a 15-point win.
Okay.
Next game, Chicago at OKC. Not really much to talk about with this one. Maybe Terrence Ferguson returns from the right hip soreness that's been keeping him out.
Ferguson?
Yeah. San Antonio at Houston, a Texas special. Lonnie Walker is considered questionable, but he bumped knees with, I believe, Aaron Baines in their previous game and then left. But after the game, Lonnie tweeted out, "I'm all good, brother," or something like that.
Yeah. We all good.
Yeah. Austin Rivers is probable with left finger sprain. And then Russell Westbrook should be back after he rested in the previous game for Houston. Houston got whooped by Detroit in the previous game with Russell Westbrook sitting out. So that was fun to watch. Bruce Brown had a huge game. Derrick Rose had a huge game. That was fun. So who do you got in this San Antonio at Houston game? Houston is Vegas line. They are projected to win by 10 points.
I'm going with the Spurs. I'm going to go with the Spurs to win.
No way, man. Houston coming off a bad loss to the Pistons. I don't see it. I think San Antonio is going to get worked. San Antonio's been playing. I think they've played in 4 straight overtime games. So,
Wow.
Yeah. I might be wrong on that. It might only be like 3 or something like that, but I think it might be 4 straight overtime games. Miami. Oh, an interesting note from the New York Knicks game on Sunday. I won't say anything about the performances because who cares? It's the Knicks. But it was their 4th straight game on the road, playing it against a team that was having a Star Wars night.
Wow, that is a very special note.
And then somebody brought up, you looking through the comments after that was a tweet from Mike Vorkunov, one of the reporters for the Knicks, and somebody made a comment underneath his tweet and said, yeah, that's because teams know that the Knicks aren't going to sell tickets because they're so bad, so they have to schedule these big promotion nights for the nights that the Knicks come in. And it makes sense.
There you go.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the Rockets are going to work the Spurs. Miami at Memphis. Hopefully we see a big game from Bam Adebayo, Jaren Jackson Jr., John Morant.
This has got game of the night written all over it, I think.
Yes, absolutely. It's definitely one I would like to check in on, but I will be at this Dallas at Milwaukee game unless I can somehow pawn those tickets off on somebody else.
Anyone want to send Kyle a DM? Yeah. We got 3 tickets?
Yeah, that I overpaid for because I thought Luka was going to be in town. I'm so sad. Anyways, hopefully Kristaps has like a 50-point game and, dunks on Giannis's face, but Giannis still puts up a 50-point game as well. Milwaukee is projected to win by 11 points on the line here.
God, a lot of 10-point. We're talking a lot of double-digit spreads here tomorrow night. I'm going to go with the Mavericks to cover.
Wow. You think they're just going to sneak it in because of the lack of Luka thing?
Sure. Plus, Eric Bledsoe is so important.
Portland at Phoenix, the final game of the night on Monday, just a 7-game slate, which is nice to have a little bit of a breather. You get to focus in on a couple of games. I wish they were more spread out though. They're all at the start of the night too. What is up with that, NBA? Come on, give us spread it out so we don't have to try to fit in San Antonio at Houston, Miami at Memphis, and Dallas at Milwaukee all at once. I mean, we want to watch all those games. NBA, come on, pals. Portland at Phoenix. Devin Booker's questionable, so I don't know. This might be a really good game, actually.
Yeah, that could be a good one. That's the final game of the evening. But yeah, if Devin Booker plays, that certainly gets a lot more entertaining.
If Booker's out, I would hope that Portland just destroys the Suns. But it is in Phoenix, and I don't know. I think it'll end up being a pretty good game.
Yeah, it'll be Frank Kaminsky's last time seeing the floor for a while. So
no, he'll probably still be in the rotation. He'll probably still be, because he was originally slated to be the backup power forward. So, although given the team's ability to go slow or smaller at power forward with guys like Oubre and Cam Johnson and Michael Bridges, I don't know. I mean, they might still give Kaminsky some spot minutes, but with the team healthy, with Ayton back on Tuesday, Monday night might be the last chance for Kaminsky. Hey, think Kaminsky can stretch out the floor, bang in like 7 to 10 3-pointers, and maybe go for 50 points?
Maybe.
Play Hassan Whiteside off the court. Do it, Big Frank.
All right, Kyle, are you ready for the final question of the night?
Yes, sir.
What's your favorite Eagles song?
Oh, I really like this song by the Eagles called what's it called? One of these nights. Yeah, I found it. I discovered it the other week. I don't know if anybody's heard of the Eagles, but I've been really enjoying it, and I play it over and over again right now. I'm sure I'll get sick of it by like tomorrow, but maybe not next week.
Well, Kyle and I appreciate you guys tuning in, whether that be through Twitter and Periscope or YouTube, or checking out the podcast format. Make sure you guys like, review, rate it, whatever you guys can do to help us out. We really appreciate it. Your input is, of course, very important to us. And we'll be back tomorrow night for another episode of Morning Hoops Podcast. He is Kyle McKeown. You can find him on Twitter at RotoKyleNBA. I am Anthony Denu. At Anthony Denu is where I'm at. And we will see you guys tomorrow night.
Thanks, guys. We love you.